The year is 1683. Across the wide Hungarian plains, the ground itself shakes, not from thunder, but from footsteps. Rank after rank of soldiers moves west, janissaries in perfect lines, cavalry standards snapping in the wind, cannons dragging scars across the earth. An army is so huge it needs 3 hours just to march past a single hill. Above them, thousands of green and red banners ripple in the summer heat, each one bearing the crescent of the Ottoman Sultan. At the center of this moving city rides one-man Grand Vizier Kara Mustafa Pasha, the Sultan's chosen hammer. He has already crushed fortresses from Belgrade to Buda. Behind him lie towns burned black, churches gutted, and royal banners trampled into mud. Now he moves toward one target: Vienna, the gate to the German lands, the crossroads of Central Europe, the city they call the Golden Apple. If Vienna is taken, the road to the heart of the Holy Roman Empire opens like an unlocked door. If Vienna is taken, Italy's cities lie within reach. If Vienna is taken, the last fragile balance of Christian Europe shatters. In Istanbul, the Sultan has promised Kara Mustafa a golden apple of his own, a jeweled symbol of world power. "Bring me Vienna," he says, "and the world will know who rules it." Europe knows this army is coming, and yet almost no one moves. The Holy Roman Emperor abandons the capital and retreats west. France, jealous of Austrian power, watches from the sidelines. Italian princes argue about money and influence. Old wounds between Catholics and Protestants still bleed from the last religious wars. Everyone is calculating. No one is acting, except one king to the north, Jan III Sobieski of Poland, 60 years old, a veteran of a lifetime of wars against Tatars and Turks, a commander who has led men to victory so many times they call him the Lion of Lekistan. His treasury is nearly empty. His kingdom is worn thin. His field army is small. But his conviction is enormous. Where other rulers see hopeless odds, Sobieski sees obligation. Where others see someone else's problem, he hears God calling his name. He sends a message south to the besieged city. "Hold, I am coming." He does not bargain. He does not wait for payment. He gathers every rider he can, every veteran who still owns a warhorse, and turns his nation south. Because some moments in history do not wait for perfect plans. They demand someone willing to risk everything. By mid-July, the Ottoman tide reaches Vienna. Something like 150,000 men surround a city defended by barely 15,000. Old walls built before cannons ruled the battlefield. Bastions chipped and patched from earlier wars. Inside Vienna, command falls to Count Ernst Rudiger von Starhemberg. He reads the numbers. He knows the odds. He understands that on paper, this is a death sentence. He chooses to resist anyway. The siege begins with thunder. Ottoman guns pound the ramparts day and night. Miners tunnel under the bastions, packing the earth with powder, turning sections of the wall into buried bombs. Each week, another explosion tears a jagged wound in the defenses. Each day, the defenders rush to plug it with sacks, planks, barrels, human bodies. Inside the city, time dissolves. The days blur into a single roar of artillery and collapsing stone. Food runs low, then scarce, then almost non-existent. People boil leather straps into soup. Rats vanish from the alleys, caught, cooked, eaten. Water grows foul. Disease crawls through the crowded streets. Dysentery, fever, infections that never close. The very old and the very young die first, not from Ottoman steel, but from hunger and illness. Still the city refuses to bow. Starhemberg walks the ramparts each morning, eyes burning with smoke and exhaustion. He notes the fresh breaches in his journal. He counts how many men still stand. The number shrinks every day. From his luxurious pavilion outside the walls, Kara Mustafa watches all this with calm confidence. He eats well. He listens to music at night. Merchants build bazaars between the tents. Visitors from across Europe come to observe the siege as if it were theater. His officers push for a full-scale assault. But the Grand Vizier shakes his head. Why spend lives when starvation can do the work? The city is surrounded. Its emperor has run. No great relief army is in sight. In his mind, the golden apple already hangs at his belt. Inside Vienna, the situation is almost hopeless. Powder stores are nearly empty. The defenders are down to a few thousand soldiers and armed civilians. 3 massive gaps gape in the outer defenses. Every hour, another mine inches closer. Another section of wall threatens to fall. Starhemberg understands the truth. They cannot hold much longer. He sends his final message out through the Ottoman lines, carried by a rider who slips away in the dark. Come at once, or do not come at all. We have days left, maybe hours. Far to the north, King Jan Sobieski is already moving. He has called every ally willing to answer. Duke Charles of Lorraine musters imperial troops from Austria and southern Germany. Princes of Bavaria, Saxony, Franconia, and others add their own small contingents. It is not much. When all banners finally gather, the relief army numbers around 27,000, facing at least 80,000 Ottomans on the ridge above Vienna. Mathematically, it is madness. But Sobieski is not thinking about mathematics. For weeks, his men have carved their way through the Carpathian passes, over mountain roads turned into rivers of mud by summer storms. They cross flooded rivers, drag cannons through forests where daylight barely touches the ground. Some days they march 40 kilometers, others closer to 50. Men sleep in their saddles. They eat whatever they can grab without stopping. Every hour spent on the road is an hour Vienna may not have. At the spear point of this moving column ride the legends of Poland, the Winged Hussars. 3,000 heavy cavalrymen, each one a small fortress on horseback. Steel breastplates polished bright as mirrors. Mail helmets, gauntlets. Feathered wings, arching from wooden frames on their saddles or backplates. Two great ribs of eagle and crane feathers that turn each rider into a moving icon. The wings are more than ornament. Generations of warfare have taught the Poles that fear can break an enemy before steel does. And when the hussars charge, the rush of air through those feathers creates a strange, haunting roar, a sound that has frozen more than one army in place. Each hussar carries a long, hollow lance, up to 5.5 meters, flexible but deadly, backed by sabers, pistols, and war hammers. Most are nobles, men with estates, houses, servants. They could easily stay home and send someone else in their place. But when the king calls, they ride, because honor for them is not a decorative word, it is a command. At Toulon on the Danube, Sobieski's Poles joined Duke Charles's imperial forces. For years, Habsburg, Austria, and Poland have eyed each other with suspicion. For decades, Catholics and Protestants have spilled one another's blood. On these fields, all of that is pushed aside. The enemy is at Vienna's gates. If the city falls, the fire spreads to every kingdom represented here. Faith, fear, and simple survival weld the alliance together. On the night of September 11th, 1683, the combined army slips quietly into the Vienna woods. No campfires, orders given in whispers. The men lay their heads on their saddles and sleep under the trees, knowing that when the sun rises, they may never see another dawn. At first light on September 12th, the commanders climb the heights of the Kahlenberg. What they see below stretches to the horizon. The Ottoman camp is a second city. A sea of tents, masts, and banners wrapped around a half-dead Vienna. Gun batteries crown the ridges. Lines of infantry and cavalry stand ready behind earthenworks. Between the relief army and Vienna lies rough ground, broken by ravines and watched by Ottoman cannon. Some generals hesitate. The numbers look impossible. 27,000 Allied troops against roughly 80,000 seasoned Ottoman soldiers still fresh enough to fight. Sobieski studies the field in silence. He understands the arithmetic. He sees the danger. And then he gives the only order that makes sense to a man who believes he has been put here for this exact day. "We attack," he says, "today, before the sun sets." The infantry begin first, pushing down through the woods, driving back Ottoman skirmishers and seizing the lower slopes. Imperial and German cavalry clash with Ottoman riders on the flanks. The battle grows layer by layer. Smoke drifts up into the trees. Drums and war cries echo between hills. It is working, but slowly. Too slowly. Inside Vienna, the defenders launch a last desperate sortie, throwing their remaining men against the besiegers' trenches in one final gamble. If the relief army does not break through soon, the city will fall, even if help has arrived. Near mid-afternoon, King Jan Sobieski rides to a low ridge overlooking the Ottoman right flank. Behind him, 3,000 winged hussars form into great wedges and columns. Polish cavalry supported by several thousand more German and Austrian horse. He looks once toward Vienna, once toward the massive Ottoman camp. Then he raises his sword. Every hussar lowers his lance. Feathers tremble in the wind. 3,000 men whisper their last prayers. Then they move. Walk, trot, canter. The slope drops away beneath their horses. The pace climbs. The wings begin to sing. That eerie whistling roar of air through feathers and wood. The earth vibrates under thousands of hooves. The sound rolls down the hillside ahead of them, a storm of noise racing faster than the riders. From the Ottoman lines, men see something they have never seen before. A wall of cavalry, layered in steel and feathers, filling the whole slope. The hussars drop their lances. They erupt into a full gallop. Behind them, 18,000 allied horsemen follow. But it is the Polish wedge that strikes first. The impact is like a natural disaster. Ottoman frontline cavalry crumple under the blow. Long lances punch through armor, through riders and mounts, splintering into fragments. The wedge drives forward, smashing through the first line, then the second, blowing a jagged gap in the center of the enemy position. Every time a lance breaks, a saber flashes free. The hussars don't slow for a heartbeat. They carve straight through the Ottoman right, scattering units that have never known defeat. On the walls of Vienna, defenders stop fighting for a second and simply stare. What they see looks impossible. Thousands of riders dropping out of the sky, wings blazing in the late afternoon sun, plunging into the enemy like a solid piece of midnight. The Janissaries rush to form new lines. They fire, reload, try to turn their guns. The hussars are already on top of them. The Allied cavalry widens the breach, hammering into the collapsing flank. Panic, once born, spreads faster than any order. One regiment breaks, then another. Soon whole sections of the Ottoman army are turning, retreating, then running. The great siege that was supposed to bring Europe to its knees is coming apart in a single afternoon. In the chaos of dust and smoke, King Jan Sobieski is everywhere. His horse is streaked with blood and foam. His armor is dented and smeared with powder. His two sons ride near him, sabers drawn, fighting like men who understand they are carrying their family's name into history. The king leads from the front because in his mind a crown means responsibility, not shelter. From the far side of the battlefield, Kara Mustafa watches his carefully constructed siege erupt into disorder. The lines he trusted, the formations he spent months assembling, tear open like cloth, and the Polish cavalry begin to crest the rise near his pavilion. The Grand Vizier hesitates, then abandons his camp. He flees with his personal guard, leaving behind his banners, his immense war chest, and the golden apple meant as a trophy for the Sultan. By nightfall, it is over. Tens of thousands of Ottoman soldiers are dead or scattered. Their artillery parks, their camp, their enormous stores lie in Allied hands. Vienna has not fallen. The road into Central Europe remains closed. When the city gates are finally opened, Jan Sobieski rides in at the head of his hussars. The people of Vienna stagger into the streets, gaunt, hollow-eyed, still smelling of smoke and sickness. They cry openly. They throw flowers. Some drop to their knees and try to kiss the hooves of the hussar horses. Their savior looks nothing like a painting. He is exhausted, filthy, almost too tired to sit in the saddle. But he is alive, and so are they. Sobieski dismounts and walks into St. Stephen's Cathedral. In front of the altar, with dust still clinging to his boots, he kneels. When he rises, he does not boast. He does not claim the victory for Poland alone or for himself. Instead, he sends a message to the Pope in Rome with a single line in Latin. Veni, vidi, Deus vicit. I came, I saw, God conquered. Not I conquered, not we conquered. God conquered. For a man like Sobieski, courage and skill were real. But they were gifts, not possessions. To him, this day belonged to something higher. The next morning, the Allies walk through the captured Ottoman camp in stunned silence. The scale is staggering. Miles of tents, silks, spices, weapons, food enough to feed Vienna for months. A model of the conquered city that Kara Mustafa had ordered built, ready for a victory parade that would never happen. The golden apple lies among the treasures, no longer a promise, just a symbol of what might have been. For the Ottoman Empire, Vienna is more than a lost battle. It is the high water mark, the furthest reach of a wave that had been rising for centuries. From this point on, the tide will run the other way. There will be other wars, other campaigns, but never again will an Ottoman army stand poised to drive into the heart of Europe. For Poland, too, this day will become legend. The charge of the Winged Hussars at Vienna is whispered over campfires, sung in songs, painted on banners. 3,000 riders against an army many times their size. A single downhill charge that shattered what had seemed unbreakable. The story is larger than one nation or one battle. On September 12th, 1683, Europe stood on a knife edge. Old rivalries, old hatreds, and political games had almost handed the continent's future to an army at its gate. What turned the balance was not just steel, but unity. A Polish king, an Austrian duke, German princes, Catholic and Protestant soldiers, who all decided for once that what bound them together mattered more than what set them apart. The echo of that decision still rolls through history like distant thunder, the thunder of hooves pounding down a hillside, the whisper of feathers slicing the wind, the roar of men who chose duty over safety and faith over fear. The day the Winged Hussars charged at Vienna, the map of Europe did not simply survive. It changed.